Diep is at the kitchen sink, fingers pruned from dishwater, staring at the drain like it can swallow the past. The house is finally calm. Nye is asleep, and the dog is curled near her feet. Outside, a half-built bathroom frame sits in the yard. Fresh boards and new measurements. Proof that safety can be built.
You need to be aware of the
Diep says
timeline. It is crucial.
Quiet but firm.
Can you tell me
James,
exactly how many days are
If you're
left?
doing something, do it gently. James turns and asks one small detail about her mother. A mole near the left wrist. A thin silver bracelet. And Diep realizes he's closer than she ever let herself hope. Diep is at the kitchen sink, fingers pruned from dishwater, staring at the drain like it can swallow the past. The house is finally calm. Nye is asleep, and the dog is curled near her feet. Outside, a half-built bathroom frame sits in the yard. Fresh boards and new measurements. Proof that safety can be built. Then Diep says it, quiet but firm. James, if you're doing something, do it gently. James turns and asks one small detail about her mother. A mole near the left wrist, a thin silver bracelet. And Diep realizes he's closer than she ever let herself hope. The day doesn't start with drama. It starts with the kind of progress Diep loves, quiet progress. No announcements, no speeches, just small work that makes tomorrow easier than today. She's in the yard early, barefoot in the cool dirt for a moment before she slides into her sandals. The air smells like damp soil and basil. Nye is out there too, gripping her little watering can like it's official equipment. Diep watches Nye tip the spout. Don't wet your clothes, Diep calls, half laughing. Nye freezes mid-pour like someone hit pause. She adjusts her wrists, aims more carefully, and says with full pride, "Careful mode." Diep smiles, because that phrase is more than cute. It's their whole life now. Careful mode means don't rush, don't spill, don't slam doors, don't raise your voice, don't let fear drive the day. The dog circles them once, nose low to the ground, sniffing the damp soil like it's checking the quality of peace. Then it sits down, tail tucked close, calm and alert like a guard who approves the morning routine. Inside, James is tying his shoes. He hears Diep repeat the phrase, "Careful mode." And something in his face softens. It's a small smile. Tired, real, the kind that doesn't ask for attention. He steps to the doorway, bends, and kisses Nye's forehead. "School today," he says. "Good child certificate, okay?" Nye nods like she's been assigned a mission. "I will earn it." James's mother moves in the kitchen without much sound. A thermos appears near James's hand like it's been there the whole time. Warm tea, quiet care. Normal. Diep notices those details the way some people notice weather. Who refilled the water jar? Who swept the floor? Who remembered salt? Her house runs on invisible kindness and invisible tension, all layered together. James glances at Diep across the table. The conversation from last night is still there. Like a chair nobody sits in, but everyone knows not to bump. "You sleep okay?" James asks. Diep nods. "I'm fine," she says. "Just work." She doesn't say, "I slept." but my mind didn't. She doesn't say. I keep hearing my own mother's voice in old memories and then realizing I can't remember her face as clearly as I should. James doesn't push. He just nods once, like he's accepting her boundary instead of arguing with it. I'll come back early today, he says. Bathroom project. Diep blinks, surprised. She's been carrying that need like a secret embarrassment. You're really doing it? She asks. James gives a faint smile. Yes. No more porch corner showers. That hits her in the chest in the most ordinary way. Because it's not romance. It's not apology. It's not a speech. It's dignity. Her eyes soften. Okay, she says quietly. That would help. And the day moves on. Like that promise is just another tool they're putting on the table. At Hill Fruits, the morning has a good rhythm. The kind that makes Diep's shoulders drop without her noticing. The counter is clean. The labels are straight. The cold unit log is clipped in the right spot, and the numbers are neat. Luan runs the counter like he's done it his whole life. Fast hands, friendly voice, no chaos. A customer points at a stack of fruit boxes and asks a question. Luan answers without guessing. He checks. He confirms. Then he smiles. Diep watches that and thinks, good, no shortcuts. Because in her world, shortcuts always cost later. Mr. Hung stops by briefly. He doesn't announce himself. He just appears, scanning the posted checklist like an inspector who respects effort. His eyes move over the paper, over the storage area, over the floor corners. Then he nods once. Orderly, he says. Diep answers automatically now. Like it's not a slogan, it's an anchor. Orderly means peaceful. On the back wall near the storage shelves, Nye's safe drawings are still taped up, crooked, earnest, bright. They look like kid art, but they also look like a warning and a promise. Nye isn't there today. She's at school, but her presence lingers anyway. Like the whole shop learned to breathe differently after she started announcing inspection and approved like a tiny authority. Diep checks her phone once. No messages. She tells herself that's good. Across town, James runs his office day like a man refusing to let pressure become chaos. He moves through meetings with that controlled calm, pen in hand, notes clean, voice steady. When someone tries to steer the conversation into public content again, James shuts it down with one sentence, like closing a door. We deliver product, he says, not exposure, no drama, no fight, just a boundary. His assistant texts him about the seasonal uncle calling again, about renting warehouse space for Tet gifts. The kind of request that always comes with hidden mess if you don't set rules. James doesn't sigh. He doesn't complain. He solves it. He calls back directly. Use the space for 2 weeks, James says. Keep it clean. No mess. No shortcuts. The uncle sounds relieved, like someone drowning who just got a rope. Thank you. Business is hard. James replies, steady and practical. Hard is normal. Sloppy is not. When James says things like that, it's not because he's cruel. It's because he's seen what sloppy does to families. He's seen how one, just for now, becomes a habit, then a crack, then a collapse. By late afternoon, he comes home early like he promised, and the house feels busy in a happy way, not frantic, not loud, just movement with purpose. But there's a surprise waiting. James's father is already in the yard, staring at the porch corner like he's evaluating a construction site. His posture is rigid the way it always is, like softness costs him something. James steps down from the car and says it plainly, like naming the plan makes it real. "Bathroom," James says. "We're building it." His father stares at him for a beat. Then he says, rough but honest, "Good. It's cold. You can't keep boiling water forever." It isn't an apology. It isn't warmth, but it's agreement. And in this family, agreement is a crack of light. Diep comes out with a small toolbox. The metal clinks softly. Her expression says she doesn't fully believe she's watching peace happen in real time, but she's not going to jinx it by acting too surprised. James looks at her. "You want it where?" Diep points gently. "Near the back corner. Less wind. More privacy." James nods. Done. No debate, no why, no lecture. Just done. Nye arrives home right as they start measuring. She runs into the yard like a tiny inspector, backpack bouncing, eyes bright. "I'm supervising construction," she announces. James laughs. "Of course you are." Hatulha, the dog barks once like it supports the project, then sits down beside Nye like they're a security team assigned to safety. They work in a calm rhythm. James measures. His father steadies the board with strong hands that look like they've carried more weight than they ever admitted. Diep hands nails and checks edges like she's protecting invisible skin from future accidents. No one argues. No one tries to win. That alone feels like a miracle. At one point, James's father pauses, looks at what Diep has marked out, and says something that lands heavier than he probably intends. "Your planning is practical." Diep blinks. Compliments from him don't come wrapped in softness. They come like stones, solid, blunt, real. "Thank you," she says softly. James watches that moment like he's watching a crack in an old wall finally let light in, and then his phone buzzes. The vibration is small, but his body reacts like it's loud. He glances at the screen and sees the name he doesn't want to see during a peaceful moment. The quiet investigator. James doesn't open it in front of everyone. He doesn't let the screen light up his face while his daughter is smiling and his wife is laughing. He steps away to the garden, under the lime sapling, where the air is cooler and the shadows are thicker. He opens the message. It's short, efficient, dangerous. Photo lead confirmed by neighbor. Need one more identifier, any birthmark, scar, or jewelry detail. If matches, we can request face-to-face verification. James's chest tightens. Not because he's scared for himself, because if this is real, Diep's whole life will tilt, and if it's wrong, she will break in a way he can't fix with a bathroom or a promise. He stands there for a second, the phone screen bright in his palm, lime leaves above him, and he can hear the yard behind him, soft laughter, measuring tapes snapping, Nye declaring approvals like a tiny boss. James swallows hard. Then he starts walking back slowly, like he doesn't want his footsteps to drag tension into the project. Because the bathroom framework is starting to take shape, and for the first time in a long time, Diep is smiling like she believes in tomorrow. And James is carrying a message that could burn that belief down if he handles it wrong. He steps back into the yard, forces his face into calm, and says, "Okay, next board goes." But his phone buzzes again in his pocket, like it can't wait. Like the truth is impatient, like the past is reaching for them right when they finally start to feel safe. And James realizes, tonight, he's going to have to ask Diep about her mother, about scars, moles, jewelry, about the smallest detail that could change everything. And he already knows the second he asks it. Diep will look at him differently, because she'll understand he isn't being curious. Anymore, he's being careful, and if he's close, then she's close too. And that means the moment they've avoided for years is about to walk straight through their kitchen door and... That means the moment they've avoided for years is about to walk straight through their kitchen door and... Dinner ends up being simple on purpose. Diep doesn't cook anything fancy. No celebration meal. No big plates that announce happiness. She makes the kind of food that says, "We're still safe. We're still normal. We're still here." Rice. Warm soup. Something sautéed that smells like garlic and comfort. Nai eats like a kid who ran herself tired supervising construction. Her cheeks puff when she chews. She talks with her hands, describing how she approved the planks, how she warned Grandpa that corners can be sharp, how the dog guarded the yard like a professional. James laughs at the right places. James's father listens more than he speaks. James's mother refills bowls quietly and moves around the table like her love is made of motion. Diep keeps noticing the tiny changes. James reaches for the ladle and serves someone else first. James's father doesn't correct anyone's posture. Nobody mentions the past. The air feels like it has room in it. After dinner, Nai showers early, not the old routine, boiled water carried in buckets to the porch corner with the wind cutting through her wet hair. Tonight, the shower is still temporary, still imperfect. But it's calmer because the bathroom frame outside is real. It's not just a complaint anymore. It's a plan becoming wood and nails. Nai comes out clean and warm, hair damp, pajamas soft. The dog follows her like a shadow and curls near her feet as she climbs into bed. Diep stands at the doorway longer than she needs to, watching Ni's chest rise and fall, counting the breaths like it's proof the world is still kind. When Ni finally sleeps, the house quiets. Not empty quiet, safe quiet. Diep goes to the kitchen and starts wiping the counter. Her hands move automatically, wipe, rinse, wring. The rag smells like soap, jasmine soap, the kind she buys because it feels gentle on the skin. James steps in and starts drying dishes without being asked. That used to be rare. Not because he didn't care, but because the old version of their life was always tense. Roles were strict. People did what they were assigned. Nobody offered help unless they wanted credit or control. Now he just picks up a towel and starts. Diep watches that towel move across a plate and feels something in her chest that's almost painful. Relief can hurt when you're not used to it. She doesn't speak right away. She wipes slower, buying herself time, because she knows what she's about to say is going to change the temperature of the room. Then she says it softly, without accusing him. "James, you asked about my mother yesterday, and today you've been careful." James's hands stop for half a second. The plate is still wet, The towel hangs midair. He turns to face her. Yeah, he admits. I've been careful. Diep doesn't demand the truth. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't press her palm on her chest like a movie. She just holds his eyes and waits, because she's learned something important in her life. If you chase a truth that isn't ready, it runs. So she gives him room. If you're doing something, she says, voice steady, do it gently. James nods. That's my plan. He takes a slow breath, like he's building his sentence the way they built the bathroom frame. Measured, careful, no shortcuts. Can I ask you one more thing? He says. About your mom, just for clarity. Diep swallows. Her throat tightens like it does when old years crawl up from the basement of memory. Okay, she says. James keeps his voice low, almost soft. Did she have any mark? A scar? A mole? Anything you remember? Even a small detail? Diep stares at the sink like it holds old time. Her mind jumps backward without asking permission. Not to a full memory. Just fragments. A wrist reaching for her. The smell of soap. A lullaby melody. Hands that moved fast when they were nervous. She blinks hard, as if she can force the image into focus. Then she says it, quietly. A small mole, near the left wrist. James's face tightens, but he doesn't interrupt. He doesn't show panic. He just listens like a man holding glass. And she wore a thin silver bracelet sometimes. Diep adds, almost like she's confessing a detail she didn't realize mattered. James's throat moves like he tries to swallow something that won't go down. Left wrist, he repeats, careful. Silver bracelet. Diep nods, eyes distant, and the soap smell. She whispers, Jasmine. That word lands in the kitchen like a bell you can't unhear. James doesn't push further. He doesn't ask for 100 more details. He doesn't force her to relive more than she offered. He just reaches for her hand once. Firm, warm, not dramatic, just contact. Thank you, he says. Diep studies his face like she's reading a label on a medicine bottle. She's trying to understand the dosage of truth he's carrying. Are you close? She asks, voice barely above a whisper. James doesn't lie. I'm closer than I expected, he says, but I'm not done confirming. Diep nods slowly. Her jaw clenches once like she's bracing for impact. Then finish it, she says. And when you tell me, don't tell me like a headline. James exhales, and his eyes soften with something like shame and promise mixed together. Never, he says. Later that night, when the lights are low and the house is quiet again, James steps outside. The garden air is cool. Basil scent clings to the dark. He can hear the smallest sounds, an insect, a distant motorbike, the shift of leaves. He looks through the window. Diep is asleep on the couch, not fully stretched out like someone who trusts the world. She's curled slightly, as if her body still believes it needs to stay ready. Her hair is loose. Her face is calm, but not carefree. In the back room, Nye's silhouette is a lump under the blanket, and James feels the weight of what he's doing. He opens his phone and types 2 lines to the investigator. No extra emotion, just facts. Left wrist mole, thin silver bracelet, jasmine soap, lullaby melody confirmed. He stares at the screen for a second before sending, like sending it makes the future real. Then he hits send. The reply comes back fast, too fast for comfort. Match is strong, ready to arrange face-to-face verification. Are you prepared? James freezes. Not because he doesn't know what the words mean, because he knows exactly what they mean. Prepared means Diep will cry or she will go silent. Prepared means James will have to watch the past walk into the present. Prepared means their daughter might see her mother's heart split open and heal in the same moment. Prepared means if it's wrong, Diep will never forgive herself for hoping. James looks up at the dark yard, the half-built bathroom frame visible even in low light, boards stacked, tools resting where Diep placed them, measurements chalked on wood, practical proof that safety can be built. He thinks about how Diep smiled today while she handed nails. He thinks about how James's father said, "Your planning is practical." Like it was the closest thing to respect he knows how to give. He thinks about the rule Diep just gave him in the kitchen, like it's the most important instruction on earth. Do it gently. James doesn't answer the investigator immediately. He whispers the decision to himself first, in the dark, like he needs to hear it out loud to become it. Warmth, he says, not fire. Then he types slowly, carefully, like every word is a nail that has to go in straight. Yes, arrange face-to-face verification. We will come quietly, no pressure, no crowd. He sends it. And for a moment, he just stands there, phone in hand, garden air on his skin, house quiet behind him, a family rebuilding in small ways, hot tea, clean logs, straight labels, a bathroom frame, a father who agrees instead of fights, and somewhere out there, the possibility of a woman with a mole on her left wrist, a thin silver bracelet, and jasmine soap on her skin. James goes back inside without turning on extra lights. He moves like he's protecting the peace from his own footsteps. He covers Diep with a light blanket. She doesn't wake, but her hand shifts slightly, as if her body recognizes his presence even in sleep. James stands there for a second, watching her breathe, letting the sight steady him. Here's what gets me. They spend years thinking the big moments will be loud, screaming, storms, dramatic scenes. But the real life-changing moments, they happen in kitchens, in dishwater, in a whispered sentence like, "Do it gently." And in a man standing in his own garden, choosing warmth over fire when the past finally answers back, "Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe to watch more."